Hello again, Google Hangout. I'm Ethan Zindler with Bloomberg New Energy Finance. We're a division of Bloomberg focused on the energy markets, and I've got the honor and pleasure of being joined today by Michael Brune, Executive Director of the Sierra Club. We got 5 minutes, so I'm going to jump right in and ask you some pretty substantive questions. Okay, one, Congress recently, just this past week, both chambers of Congress have now passed resolutions, essentially, or legislation to try to undo the president's Clean Power Plan. What does that mean for the negotiations here?
Nothing. The president will veto any legislation that undermines the Clean Power Plan. I'm very confident in that. And in addition, what's happening all across the country is that utility after utility after utility, state after state, are taking strong action to transition away from dirty coal and towards clean energy. So it's not encouraging when you have both houses of Congress vote against pretty smart and pragmatic climate actions. But in terms of an actual impact either on the negotiations or on the electricity sector, it's just about zero.
But what does it say about the American public and the situation of the American psyche around climate change that a majority of the Senate and House were willing to vote to undo what is arguably the single most important regulation in the history of the U.S. to address climate change?
What it says is that we have a major party, the Republican Party, that barely acknowledges the existence of climate change and is adamantly opposed to any type of action that would address climate change, that would create clean energy jobs, that would protect air and water. And it's disturbing. It's disturbing that we have half of the political system in the United States that is at best obstructionist, if not in denial about the actual existence of the problem. Fortunately, though, the president can take an enormous action through his executive authority, and it's complemented by what we see here today, which is thousands of actions that are being taken at the local level.
Last I checked, we'll have a different president in January of 2017. I'm no constitutional scholar, but I think that's correct. What do you say to people here who make that point and say, well, it's great that Obama came and he gave this great speech and there's a Clean Power Plan and all this stuff, but he's not going to be president in a couple of years. What reassurances, I guess, can you give them on that question?
Well, what we'll say is that we clearly need someone in the White House who understands both the obligations to act on climate change and the opportunities inherent in clean energy. But what we also will say, and it's particularly poignant here today, is that we are seeing communities all across the country and around the world that are taking strong action, that are beginning to move away from fossil fuels. Some cities are embracing 100% clean energy. Some cities are only so far right now investing in a transition away from coal-fired power plants. Some cities are investing in green transportation. So we need a strong leader in the White House who will take us forward on climate change. We need to have Congress that's controlled by leaders who are willing to fight climate change effectively. But it's not accurate to say that Congress or the presidency is the only way in which progress can be made.
But this does certainly raise the stakes on the next presidential campaign.
Absolutely.
Greg. And I'm curious your thoughts on this because I've watched the debates and it seems like either climate change doesn't get asked about or it gets asked about in the most incredibly simplistic kind of manner. What can be done to change that? How can you and others inject these issues into the presidential race in an educated kind of way?
Well, it's interesting. We think it's actually more a part of this election than it ever has been. And we have to acknowledge that in the last several elections, climate change has barely been a topic. Yeah. But right now, you could not have a more stark difference between the candidates in the Republican Party versus the candidates in the Democratic Party. We have seen climate be injected both into the debates and the debate, the overall conversation. I think it's clear that every candidate on the Democratic side wants to really lean in, as the expression goes, to climate change and the clean energy transition. It also seems clear that the Republican candidates want to talk about climate change. They want to disavow that there's an actual challenge or mock those who want to take action on it. So we're pretty confident that this will be a vibrant debate throughout 2016 and that there probably hasn't ever been a choice that's as clear as it's likely to be in this election.
Great. So I'm told we're done.
All right.
Michael, it's been a pleasure to have you. Good to see you.
Good to talk to
you. Michael Brune, Executive Director of the Sierra Club. Thanks for joining me here today. And back to you, Google Hangout.